And welcome once again to the Wheeling Sports Podcast, live from First Stop Bar and Grill in Parma, Ohio. I am one of your hosts today, Peyton Vince, alongside the soon-to-be late Parker Pierce. Before we get things started, obviously a quick note to our sponsors. If you're looking to get a haircut, 'tis the season. Call up Cisco the Barber at 440-320-2691. And it's Cisco the Barber, 440-320-2691. Make sure to get fresh for the holidays. Make sure New Year's is coming up. Might be single. Might end up wanting to have some kind of change for the new year. And that's where you do it at, is at Cisco the Barber or Cisco the Barber on Instagram. Also, another thank you to our sponsors, Delight Cafe CBD, as well as Manscaped. But as we get things started, the Big Ten Championship took place yesterday, and Ohio State came through. Justin Fields, obviously, when Parker Pierce gets here, we'll dive into that a little bit more. But the Buckeyes overcame Northwestern, and it took a lot from the front of Trey Sermon, which is an Oklahoma transfer. And it was a good day for Ohio State overall, with Ohio State Buckeyes basketball beating UCLA as well. But on that note, going back to the Big Ten Championship game, you had Trey Sermon, and this blows my mind, just on the standpoint that throughout the year he did not do much whatsoever. Throughout the year, as I find out the stats. So the year for the 5 games that Big Ten the Big Ten overcame with Ohio State, Trey Sermon had 55 rush attempts, 344 yards, and 1 touchdown. In the Big Ten Championship alone, Trey Sermon had 29 rushing attempts and 331 yards. He almost beat his whole entire year-long, I don't know if you want to call that in 2020, but he overcame by 10 yards almost what he totaled through the season, which is absolutely outstanding. He beat Eddie George's record, Ezekiel Elliott's record, all this and more. Thanks to our producer, Brian Fluke. It was in my eyes that I must have been parched. But nonetheless, with the Buckeyes, the college football playoff just possibly got a little bit more interesting with Notre Dame losing as well. With Notre Dame losing, it's looking like Texas A&M, and if I have to pick one, it's going to be Texas A&M jumping up to number 4. Ohio State's going to be probably 3, Clemson number 1, and Alabama 2. Or you end up having Clemson and Ohio State once again. So, obviously, on that note, with the college football playoff, so much interesting games happened, especially with Alabama and Florida, their SEC championship game, which came down to the wire after a first half outstanding performance by Alabama. But the college football playoffs are going to get interesting. Hey, we're live, pal.
Holy Toledo, I tell you what. This First Stop place, what a place it is. We had our Christmas party here last night. It was absolutely insane. People were hanging from the rafters. This place was absolutely amazing last night. What a First Stop Christmas party. Where were you at, pal?
Where was I at? I was at the radio station working as well, just like you.
Oh.
And then I think I got home and phoned it in for the night, you know?
So you were at the radio station.
Yeah. Well, and honestly, the timing of this just worked out because we were talking about the Ohio State Buckeyes Big Ten Championship
yes,
game.
That's exactly what
so
I was
it's
talking
as
about.
if this is just the third chair. Let me get situated.
Yeah, you didn't have this all set up.
It was set up. I just took your spot.
Hello? Yeah, your car's at your house.
He doesn't understand. When I say we're live, pal, it means we're live,
Your
pal.
house.
But anyways, Parker Pierce is definitely going to end up diving in with Trey Sermon. I know his take on Justin Fields isn't too popular.
Justin
Professional,
Fields,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. No, when you work here at this place called First Stop and everything gets wild and crazy, you see that? You just don't have time for, recovery,
downtime.
Yeah, I got to work here today also. It's going to be a wild day. What a Sunday. At least we got the Browns at 8 o'clock, you know.
Yeah,
Sunday night football.
If
but
you
let's
have
go back to
DirecTV, you might not have the game, though.
Hey, just go to, like, Rose's or, you know, some Value World and go get one of those antennas. Just click it to the back of your TV and you're good to go.
Okay. I didn't even think about that approach whatsoever.
Yeah, it's $5 for an antenna at most places.
So anyways, as you mentioned, Ohio State. For one, before we get into your whole entire rant of Justin Fields and whatnot, I want to talk about Trey Sermon because I just broke down the stats.
I want to talk about Trey Sermon too because that really, it was really incredible because Master Teague for most of the season I thought has been quite a quality back for the Ohio State Buckeyes, and he's done fairly well and well enough to where I think he could keep his job over any other running back in college football. And then all of a sudden here comes Trey Sermon.
Oklahoma transfer, by the way.
He spent 3 years at Oklahoma too. That's and how do you transfer after 3 years and you're playing at Oklahoma? And how is Trey Sermon not Oklahoma's leading rusher? Why is he not in Oklahoma anymore? What happened with that?
So here's what blows my mind because I ended up getting curious after I didn't have time to watch the game because I had a busy day yesterday, and it sucks that I didn't get to watch the game. But I always knew that Trey Sermon was always talked about in that game. That he possibly was on the verge of beating Eddie George's record or Ezekiel Elliott's. And to top it off, when you see the statistics,
Big Ten championship game,
yeah. So throughout 2020, Trey Sermon had 55 rush attempts, 344 yards, 1 touchdown.
He did that in one game, pretty much.
29 rush attempts, 331 yards. He had 13 rushing yards less and 2 touchdowns. So if that doesn't say anything for you, I think, quite frankly, Trey Sermon more than likely bumped up his draft stock extremely with a game like that.
Absolutely he did.
Because he is a senior after all.
Yes, and you know what? He will be playing on Sundays. There's no doubt about that. But I want to give a shout out to former person we had on the show, Mark Zofka, my college baseball coach. He had on Facebook yesterday before the game even started. He said Trey Sermon is going to have a breakout game today, and you were absolutely right, Coach Zofka. You were absolutely right on that.
That's crazy. Honestly, and I hate to say it just because the game was it was a lot closer than a lot of people expected, I think, because it is Northwestern and nobody views Northwestern as a powerhouse. But there's a reason why they're playing in the game. Trey Sermon made up for the faults of Justin Fields in that game. And this kind of goes into your rant about Justin Fields and how he's not a top 10 player and how the next guy off the street's a better quarterback than him. And
I'm not saying anything like that.
What does Florida Atlantic think of that?
I'm just saying there's so many different the Big Ten is very, very, very depleted this year. I mean, Michigan's a disaster. Michigan State's a disaster. Penn State started 1-5, I think. Absolutely terrible seasons from teams that we have been used to, being powerhouses and being top 25 teams. Ohio State didn't even get to face Wisconsin this year. I mean, that's the type of thing where I'm saying with Justin Fields, where it worries me if I'm an NFL franchise and that's who I'm going to take to be the leader of my entire franchise for years to come. I don't worry about Justin Fields if he goes into the right scheme or goes into the right system, kind of like how Justin Herbert did. He got drafted by the Chargers.
He was in, by the way.
In what?
Did you not catch that audio for Thursday night when he dove into the end zone? And they ended up trying to argue the fact that he wasn't in, and he's screaming, "I was in," like a teenage boy.
But either way, Justin Herbert's been great this year. But Justin Fields, I could see him, if he goes into the right scheme in the NFL, possibly being successful. But I don't see him being the savior of the Jets. I don't see him being the savior of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't see him being the savior of any team that will pick him in the top 10 because they're that desperate for a quarterback. I just don't see him being the savior. I see him being a good fit in a system, and that's maybe about it.
Well, I mean, here's the thing with Justin Fields, and here's what I think you're judging it by. And I mean, a lot of people judge it this way usually. You're not the first one, but it's always a lot of people. I mean, same thing with the Browns. If you're related to Baker Mayfield, it's always a "what have you done for me lately" standpoint. You're judging from what I seen is this year alone. It seems that you kind of forgot about last year with Justin Fields. I mean, he was a Heisman contender. He had one interception. Also this year, even if there wasn't any talent, he had his first interception or the first incomplete pass after like 3 games.
All I got to tell you is being a Heisman contender or being a Heisman Trophy winner sometimes doesn't mean jack in the NFL. It just doesn't.
Yeah.
And it's sometimes, you could be the best. Being the best college quarterback is a huge difference than being an average NFL quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, I mean, that's the only thing I worry about. And, like I said, the only reason I dog at him so badly is because Ohio State, doesn't matter who the quarterback is, you know you're going to have one of the most talented all-around rosters in all of college football. Same thing with Alabama. Nick Saban recruits. You know you're going to get top to bottom, one of the best and most talented rosters, offensive linemen, wide receivers, running backs, the entire core of the team.
Look at Jedrick Wills for the Browns.
Alabama produces, 10, 11 drafts, throughout the draft every year, it seems. And that's
early on in the first couple of rounds, too. It's not like they fall into
offensive
the
linemen, defensive linemen, they win the trenches. When you win the trenches, your skill players don't have to worry that much. Being a quarterback just gets that much easier. And that's what worries me is even though Ohio State had a lot of players missing, their second stringers are just as good as just about anybody else in the country. And if you struggle that hard against Northwestern, even with your second stringers, I'm sorry. I just don't see as being a guy that could beat an NFL defense, considering I don't think on Northwestern's defense or Indiana's defense, which you threw 5 picks against Justin Fields, 5 interceptions against those 2 defenses, I don't see a single NFL player on either one of those rosters.
So here's the thing, and I feel like this is also something that's probably getting in the way of your thoughts of Justin Fields and him being successful, is the fact that Ohio State quarterbacks just don't have as much success in the NFL.
And I told you exactly why. It's because, they shine bright like a diamond when they're playing for Ohio State, but as soon as they get in the NFL and realize that the rest of their roster isn't head 10 feet better, and they're not head over heels way better than every other team they face. That's what I'm saying. They're playing on a team where it's like, the most talented guys on the field might not be on my team this time. Changes everything.
Yeah, I get it. The thing, that's kind of.
Can you imagine playing a game and you're a basketball player, Peyton, and you're by yourself, or you're not by yourself, but you're playing on a team, and your job was just to be the point guard. So you just pass, and you get assists, and you just pass it. And everybody else on your team is 6'10", NBA-style players, but you're playing it like high school kids.
Yeah, easily.
So you could be a pretty damn good point guard, couldn't you? If everybody else around you was really good, you know how many assists you'd be getting if they put the ball in your hands every time and then you made the decision.
Yeah,
of course, you'd have great assist stats.
Yeah, I got you. That makes sense. But I think what we're gonna end up doing is briefly taking a quick break. We started it a little late. Stay tuned though. Don't worry. But we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to talk a little bit about college football, the playoff, and a little bit more of their, the championship games, like Florida and Alabama. I don't know if you watched that, but that was a really good ending. Oregon and USC, I think. There's something with the way that their play calling is that's more common with Oregon now that I'm not really a big fan of, so we'll get into that. Obviously, we haven't talked football since Wednesday over the phone for the show. We're going to dive into the Browns. We're going to dive into Colt McCoy's revenge game, Freddie Kitchens' revenge game on Sunday night against the Browns. We're going to go through the picks. There's plenty more to come, absolutely. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back on the We Like Sports podcast. Stay tuned. Also, make sure to Manscaped. Promo code SPORTS. You got it. What's
Sports with a Z. Manscaped.
If you're
bored in the house and I'm in the house bored. Bored in the house and I'm in the house bored.
Why not play with your balls? Our sponsor today, Manscaped, is here to make sure your balls are smooth while you or your partner are playing with them. Manscaped promotes clean hygiene when it comes to shaving your balls thanks to their Lawnmower 3.0. So a little side note, have you ever cut your balls while shaving them? I have, and that is painful. I would not ever do that again, and I would never shave my balls if it wasn't for Manscaped, because once I started using Manscaped, I no longer had to worry about the bleeding anymore. Also, for any new subscribers, you end up getting replacement blades refilled for your lawnmower 3.0 trimmer delivered to your door every 3 months, making sure your trimmer always stays fresh and clean. And for a limited time, subscribers get not only 1, but 2 free gifts: the Shed Travel Bag, which is a $39 value, and the patented high-performance anti-chafing Manscaped Boxer Briefs. This is the perfect package for your perfect package. Get 20% off and free shipping with the code SPORTSWITHAZ at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at Manscaped, and use the code SPORTS. Make playing with your balls the best part of your day. Thanks, Manscaped.
And welcome back to the We Like Sports podcast from First Stop Bar and Grill in Parma. What's going on today for Sunday's specials at First Stop?
Oh,
Bar
we got
and
the
Grill?
Broman Burger, $2 off. You can't pass up that deal. The Broman Burger, what a great sandwich, Peyton. Have you had it yet?
I have not, but I am
you
getting kind of
jabroni.
hungry.
You got to try it. It's amazing.
You know what else I have to try? Is I have to figure out the rankings for the college football playoff because so much went down. For one, I want to break down the whole entire Oregon football team because, like, you know how
who football team?
Oregon.
Oregon.
You know, like the donors.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's Oregon.
Well, thanks for correcting me. That's why you're the professional one here. Kiss my ass.
No, I just know how to pronounce things. That's all.
I hate you. Anyways, though, so with the whole entire like college football like standpoint, everybody since like 2016 did the clap to snap the ball thing. Well, instead, Oregon goes with one clap. They have their running back in motion then, and it's pretty much them running wheel routes, and then the second clap is the snap. But every single time it just, like, I obviously, like, it's always, like, moving pieces and whatnot, but there's always the quarterback in shotgun. You have the running back from wide receiver get pretty much move back to the quarterback, run a wheel route, and go back out, or else run the ball. So, like, it's just, like, it feels like Oregon's doing way too much. And it's just like it was something I noticed in the game though that you don't see that too often. Is that like Oregon
I saw it last year with Ohio State. I mean, every time Dwayne Haskins took a snap, every time JT Barrett took a snap, weren't they clapping?
Yeah, but like with the difference of the claps though is that like the first one with Oregon is the running back in motion.
That's
and the second one.
Yes, that just.
Am I just noticing this now?
You're just finally catching on. Oh my goodness, yes, yeah. It's not. That's a normal thing in college football, Peyton. It's a very normal thing.
Well, I'm not a football player. Apparently, that's the first time I noticed that, and we're just gonna go past that one then and go back to the college football rankings. So you also had Alabama and Florida play one another, and Alabama ran away with this one early on, but the final score was 52-46. Florida fought back. They kept on fighting. Honestly, with Notre Dame losing, rankings are looking a little something like this. Alabama's at 1, Clemson's at 2, Ohio State's probably going to be at 3, and at 4, I don't even think Notre Dame belongs. I get that.
I think Notre Dame got whooped so badly by Clemson last night that they absolutely did not belong in the college football playoff.
And the thing is, too, is I hate to do this.
They should have 2 losses because didn't they play Clemson already?
But they had Trevor Lawrence out because of COVID. So in reality, that win
should be 2 losses.
Nothing.
It should be 2 losses.
So with that standpoint, you have Texas A&M at 5, which maybe you could put them in. But I think after Florida put up a fight against Alabama, and I wouldn't mind seeing that part 2 because it'd be Alabama versus Florida again, put maybe Florida at 4 instead. Have them bump up. But if in reality, if they end up just going up in the rankings, Texas A&M, I believe they are undefeated. When was the last time Texas A&M actually, they've never been in the college football playoff. They've never had.
No, they haven't. Not yet.
This is one of those years that all these teams like a Coastal Carolina or a Liberty, like they're starting to emerge. In Texas A&M, who isn't necessarily like a whole powerhouse program when it comes to the college football rankings, they could actually put in an argument to be in the college football playoff, which makes it interesting because they won big against Tennessee 34-13.
Yeah.
And they've won 7 games in a row too. First time since 1998.
And the only team they lost to is number 1 Alabama.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, give them that matchup again. So
I wouldn't mind seeing that. I mean, obviously, college football it's just such a weird year, and I'm just happy that we actually have playoffs in college football still. And it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun, New Year's Eve watching those 2 semifinal games. And I don't know. I have a feeling that it's just going to come down to Alabama and Ohio State.
If it does, I mean that's really reminiscent of 2014 again.
I mean, I hope it. What I meant to say is I hope it comes down to Ohio State, Alabama. But to be completely honest with you, if Justin Fields plays the way he did yesterday against Clemson, there's no way Trevor Lawrence does not put up more than 22 points on Ohio State defense.
Yeah, that's true. And, like, that's the biggest concern, obviously. But I think I'm a firm believer in if you end up playing somebody that's a higher skill level, that especially
rise to the competition.
Yeah,
I sure hope so.
he ends up matching his competition because he could hang with them. And, I mean, it's not necessarily the Justin Fields show, too. If you end up facing Clemson, which tonight we're going to end up finding out, so Wednesday we'll be able to break this down even more, and we'll know what's going on for the college football playoff. But you could have Trey Sermon have another huge game. You have Master Teague, who's another option now, too. Early on, the first game of the year, nobody believed in Ohio State running backs. Master Teague, everybody was like, who the hell's this guy? Trey Sermon was like, okay, maybe he's something, came from Oklahoma. He hasn't really provided anything throughout the season until the Big Ten championship game.
Yeah.
He could match that performance again. Ohio State and Clemson, it doesn't matter if Justin Fields has a good game. And on top of that, too, imagining that they have Chris Olave back, too, Ohio State can make a really good run in the college football playoff. I'm excited to see it, especially because everything seems to be clicking on all cylinders, finally. It's, in reality, I mean, let's think about it. All these teams are playing 10 games. Ohio State's at 6. And they're canceling games, and they're coming back a week later. So this time off in between, this might be an advantage for Ohio State because they're used to having this time off in between important games.
And it's only going to be like a week and a half between, until the time. So that's just like 10 days?
Yeah, roughly.
So, I mean, it is what it is, but they have had, games canceled. So at least this is like a planned and scheduled time off. So it's they could actually, do the time off the right way, do practices the correct way, and just properly prepare instead of preparing for one opponent all week and then finding out you're not going to play them, and then you got to switch to another opponent and you never even got the chance to play that game so you can learn from it.
Right.
That does make sense, but I mean, either way, you're Ohio State. You just get it done. I mean, the whole Big Ten is at a disadvantage this year. Don't be the Pittsburgh Steelers and complain about having weeks off and having reschedules and all that stuff. Don't be like them. Be better than that.
So, obviously, changing subjects and going into the NFL. Thursday night's matchup, too, which I believe you got wrong. You picked the Raiders, right?
I did.
I picked the Chargers, and the Chargers
Congratulations. Good for you.
So, anyways, with that standpoint, Marcus Mariota came back and actually might have ended up making an argument in that game to possibly be a starter elsewhere if Derek Carr's blocking that path. That's very similar. What he did is what Teddy Bridgewater did for the Saints last year, was that he missed time, he came up, he made his name once again. Marcus Mariota, they changed the scheme throughout the game, though. They ended up having not Derek Carr, they had more option plays, and it was cool to see Marcus Mariota on the field again and not shit the bed.
Well, what I'm thinking is, if you were a team like the Jacksonville Jaguars, would you rather, after seeing that performance that he had on Thursday Night Football, would you rather draft Justin Fields or sign Marcus Mariota?
I'd do both.
Or you could sign Marcus Mariota, use the number 2 pick for
wide receiver.
Anybody build that team up, because. I mean, if you're Jacksonville, they're so bad that it's like going to be like the Cincinnati Bengals with Joe Burrow. You're just going to put in the best quarterback available, and he's going to get eaten up.
Yeah. And I think the thing is, though, is that I've been saying this over and over again. I feel like the NFL has changed to the perspective that doesn't matter how many quarterbacks you have, you always want to have the fallback. Like Carson Wentz, nobody really thought that or specifically, not even Carson Wentz, he's not a good example, but Aaron Rodgers and the Packers drafting Jordan Love in the second round. If you're ever having any moment that you could end up failing, somebody's going to be in the shadows for you. Tua just literally came out of nowhere, and he got his starts, and he became the starter for the Dolphins. The Dolphins traded for Josh Rosen. Josh Rosen shit the bed. He would never even get an opportunity.
Josh Rosen was absolutely horrible.
But they traded him to get Kyler Murray, Arizona did. So it's like, What's preventing Jacksonville from signing both Marcus Mariota and then having Justin Fields, and Justin Fields learning an NFL game
Same
plan?
thing with the Jets. The Jets could do the same thing. I mean, Sam Darnold's obviously not the answer out there either.
The thing is, though, with Sam Darnold is if you keep him around and draft like a Trevor Lawrence, is Sam Darnold, who's still young, going to actually want to be somebody that teaches somebody like Trevor Lawrence? Absolutely not. Marcus Mariota, on the other hand, I mean, they kind of changed that up with Tennessee. He's used to it. He's not used to being a starter anymore. So I think that would be a better fit for the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Sam Darnold, you need to find somebody like a Ryan Fitzpatrick to teach Trevor Lawrence the NFL mindset and the game planning and all that. But obviously, it's going to be interesting for the whole entire NFL setup. Also, I want to hit on one more thing before we get into Browns talk. Derrick Henry, with 3 games to go, he's at 1,532 rush yards.
And he's got, three different 200-yard games?
Yep.
That's
two
an NFL record.
weeks in a row, I think.
Or 4. He's got 4 of them. 4 200-yard games, and that's an NFL record for most of the season. He broke Jim Brown, LaDainian Tomlinson, and somebody else's record. They were tied at 3.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So on that note, that kind of goes into my next topic that I want to hit on. Right now, the MVP candidates for the NFL is pretty much Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers. That's about it. Does Derrick Henry belong in that conversation?
Of course he belongs. He absolutely belongs, but this is a quarterbacks league, and I just don't see a running back winning it anytime soon.
And that's what sucks too, is like you said, I mean, he's setting records for four 200 plus rush yard games.
That's
and
insane.
If you have him on fantasy like I do, you're very thankful for that. That's your little Christmas present. Yep. Usually. I'm in the playoffs. I'm a 4 seed on that note. Root for me from afar. But going back to the MVP discussion, out of the 2 quarterbacks, who would you rather have? Aaron Rodgers, who has 37 total touchdowns, 4 interceptions, completion percentage of 69%, and 3,476 total yards, or Patrick Mahomes with 33 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, 4,056 total yards, and 68%.
Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL right now, and he's very young. And I just would rather have Patrick Mahomes. I think his arm talent is absolutely incredible. Aaron Rodgers' arm talent is also incredible as well. But what Patrick Mahomes has done over the past 3 years is just absolutely incredible. And I would put my money on there. I would never bet against Patrick Mahomes. I just won't do it.
Yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes. Again, this kind of goes back to the college football rankings. He's a Texas A&M guy. They're not, like, you would never really expect for probably 5 years ago that Texas A&M could produce a quarterback like...
I thought it was Texas Tech.
You're right. I think you're right. I confused the 2 Texases. Let me fact check that. But while we end up figuring out where Patrick Mahomes went to college, which is Texas Tech.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's why we have you here for fact checking, and that's it. But... you don't expect any outside of the Texas Longhorns back 5-10 years ago. That's where if you hear a quarterback's produced in Texas or they went to school in Texas, you're not thinking of Texas Tech. You're not thinking of Texas A&M. You're just kind of thinking Texas Longhorns, and that's it. That's the powerhouse school, or at least once was. Mm-hmm. So. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes, I think he's also in that consideration. I think Patrick Mahomes would be MVP, but Aaron Rodgers, too. Goal that pretty much happened for him and his motivation was Jordan Love being drafted in the 2nd round. We gave up on you already. We're looking past you, and we're not going to help out your surrounding pieces, but how do you answer back? And I mean, NFL teams, people in general do that. What could I do to get you going and piss you off to make you better?
Right.
So, speaking of, and while we end up going back to changing gears and talking about the Browns, tonight, Sunday Night Football, we got Colt McCoy, Freddie Kitchens, and the New York Giants against the Cleveland Browns.
The Cleveland Browns, this is a statement game for you. It's going to be on national TV. You need to show exactly why you're not the same old Browns. You're facing 2 former Browns right now in really key roles tonight, and you know what? Last week, after the Monday Night Football game, everybody said, hey, this is not the same old Browns. Tonight's your chance to face those same old Browns that were trash for year in and year out. You have a chance to face them and put the past behind you and move forward for this franchise.
So, something to just get the gears turning a little bit, and also I guarantee you this is going to piss you off. The Browns win tonight. I want to say their playoff percentage to get in is 95%. If they lose, there's a possibility that they don't get in the playoffs with a 10-11 win season.
It's possible. I mean, but hey, just win ball games. If you want to make it to the playoffs, you got to win games in the regular season. Just win, baby. Just win. It's Sunday Night Football. You're on prime time. The reason you're on prime time is because of you, not because of the Giants. It's because of you, Cleveland. You are the reason that you're on. That this game is prime time game. Show them that you're not the same old Browns. Go out there. You need to put the Giants in the dirt tonight and make it the playoffs and just prove that you belong.
So, with the Browns having the game against the Giants, and this is kind of, again, being cautious if you're a Browns fan. I would be more concerned now that Colt McCoy's starting because they beat the Seattle Seahawks than Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones, if he started this game, I think it would have easily been a cakewalk for the Browns, and this would not have been a good Sunday Night Football game for like the regular football fan. It'd be a blowout.
Yeah.
Colt McCoy on the other hand, and you have Freddie Kitchens. My question is what's Rashard Higgins going to do with Freddie Kitchens on the other side? You saw Baker Mayfield. You saw Baker Mayfield hand Hugh Jackson a ball, and you ended up seeing him also crotch chop. What's Rashard Higgins going to do? Because that was
the safety that did that. That handed
Demarius Randall.
Yeah.
And then also Baker handed off the ball to Hugh Jackson, right?
No, that was Demarius Randall. He picked the ball
Baker
off
ended up doing the crotch chop then.
Yeah.
That was it. So, you have that going on in the past. You have Rashard Higgins, who was forgotten last year, talking about an extension now. What's going to be the result for Rashard Higgins? What's his motivation in this game? Is it to kind of look Freddie Kitchens in the eye and be like, "Hey, wrong decision"?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what it's all about. That's called being a man and just trying to prove somebody wrong. That's what guys do. They're always trying to prove their haters wrong. Rashard Higgins is going to ball out tonight and show exactly why he should not have been in Freddie Kitchens' doghouse.
And I mean, honestly, the thing is that the biggest. Let's ask this question, because the Browns Monday night game, in reality they lost by 5, or at least from the scoreboard perspective, but in reality they lost by 3 just because of last second trying to extend the play from a kickoff return. What is your takeaway from the Browns-Ravens matchup? Obviously, a little concerning with the ball handling, but Ravens do have a good defense. But I want to say there's 7 forced fumbles.
Yeah, that was
recovered, but that's 7 forced fumbles.
That was worrisome. I mean, that quarterback, he's forced the most fumbles in the NFL this year, I believe. He just punches them out. He does it every week. But you got to know that as a receiver. I mean, Higgins fumbled the ball twice in the first quarter.
3 times overall in that game.
Yeah, and it was sloppy, but you know what? The Browns still. You don't want to take moral victories, but that felt like a moral victory, and it gives me confidence knowing that the Browns could make the playoffs and compete against a team that, even though I don't think Baltimore's record really shows exactly how good they are this year. I mean, they haven't had Lamar Jackson at a lot of points.
Yeah,
and
with COVID or with stomach issues.
With Lamar Jackson being on the team and playing, it's a whole different squad, and we competed with them. That's, I guess, the moral victory, but it's not. But I don't know. I'm just excited for the playoffs, and I just know that we can really compete with anybody.
Also, on a complete strange note, though, but I wanted to hit on this a while ago, but I don't think we ever did. This is one of those stupid fun facts. The NFL playoffs are the wild card weekend is both on CBS and on Nickelodeon.
Nickelodeon?
Yeah.
Good. Get these kids watching some foosball. They need to see it.
SpongeBob's going to be the halftime performance, I heard.
Is it really?
No.
It should be.
Right?
I mean, he killed it at the Bubble Bowl.
So, the whole entire mindset too, and this is kind of the way I've been breaking it down throughout the week, is the fact that the Ravens' first matchup with the Browns was, if you're a Browns fan, it was difficult to watch, and it wasn't. You didn't think this season would result where they're at right now. You look back at that Monday night game, they lost by 3, and they put up almost 100 points combined. That's Baker Mayfield getting better. I mean, he had 350 passing yards. The rush attack wasn't really there that game.
He proved he could put the team on his back and win a ball game. You know what I mean?
And I mean, he drove him down with, a minute left?
Yeah.
A minute, 10 seconds left in the game. The Browns, what do the Browns have to do for the Giants game tonight in order to win? I saw the forecast, it's 30 degrees in New York. It's going to be cold. 30 degrees might mean snow, might mean rain. Who knows?
I think they need to control the time of possession. If they can control the time of possession, control the clock, I think they'll have a very easy time winning this ball game. But 3 and outs, turnovers, that ain't going to help you. It never does. So time of possession is the key. I think just hold on to the ball, run it down their throats, and keep moving the chains.
Absolutely. Moving the chains.
Moving the chains. In the backfield.
All these names. So, before we end up letting you go, because you have to end up heading out of here.
Yep, I got to actually work here.
First stop, Bar and Grill in Parma.
First stop. Come visit.
So, as we talk about the picks, I know we don't have time to go through these all, but as of right now, 3 games in, I'm 3 picks correct. I'm leading you by 13 games.
Oh, you're the worst.
125 to 112.
You just ruined my mood.
That's all right. Now go get me a beer.
All right, I will.
All right, guys. We'll be back on the We Like Sports podcast. Don't go anywhere. Who else is coming on? Who's replacing you?
Well, Nick will be here shortly, I believe. But
oh, he's fashionably
actually,
late?
he's right over there.
He's
so
fashionably
Nick
late
will
like
be
you?
Nick will be joining you for the next segment.
Sweet. All right, and we're going to be talking
For
about
the next
jerseys.
3 segments.
3?
Yep.
We only go to 12:45.
Oh, well, next segment. Hey, don't forget to Manscaped. That's use promo code SPORTS with a Z, SPORTZ.
And we'll see you Wednesday again.
Yes, absolutely.
7:30 to 9:30. We'll catch you then. We're not going anywhere. We're going to be live until 12:45. First stop, Bar and Grill in Parma. Come up, talk Browns, talk Ohio State, talk sports. We like sports. How about you? We'll be back.
Manscaped. Use the promo code SPORTS with a Z, SPORTZ. Ball toner, ball deodorant, ball shaver. And you get a nice bag to shave your hairy bag. Manscaped.
Welcome back to We Like Sports podcast here at First Stop in Parma, Ohio. This is Nick Compenza and Peyton.
There we go. You got the name right. I love it. You actually sound like a professional already. You're better than Austin, so that's good news. Or Parker Pierce, whatever the hell it goes by anymore. It always changes by the week.
Yeah.
But as we were saying in the last break, as Austin pointed you out at the bar, we were talking about the Browns-Ravens matchup on Monday night that happened earlier on. What were your thoughts of that game? Was that, like, as a Browns fan, is that something that was intriguing to you? I mean, in reality, they lost by 3 instead of 5.
At the start of the game, it was just a sloppy first half. I mean, they did not run the ball as much.
Right.
Which is their strength of their team. But then, because I left maybe halfway of the third quarter, like at 10:30 or so.
Gotcha.
And I watched the rest of the game at home. And they were a completely different team, especially when Lamar Jackson left.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, they put up 22 points in the fourth quarter? Like, the Browns...
Well, if that.
Like, the Browns were just kind of, like, hanging around. They weren't really scoring that much. And then that fourth quarter, it was just a whole entire explosion. A lot of back and forth. You had Lamar Jackson come back with the Stone Cold music hit, and then he came out.
The one problem I did have about the game was they scored too fast.
Yeah. They
left a hell of a lot of time for Lamar Jackson to do what he did.
Exactly, and I mean, they had.
I mean, you're at your 2-minute warning. You have all this momentum going. They should have just took their time on the last touchdown, which gave them the 1-point lead.
Right.
And if they would have let the clock run down and then scored, the game would have been ours.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the thing is like, obviously, you always have the mindset, no matter what, is that, like, you want to score at least early on. With that time, like, difference, with the less time remaining in the game, you want to kind of milk the clock and just go on. But, like, a lot of people have the mindset that score quick, score often. That's always the mindset for, like, basketball, football, as long as it's not, like, within the last 2 minutes of the game. But, I mean, what does that come down to? The fact that they were just kind of too quick with their ball movement. Is that on Baker Mayfield's behalf? Is that on Kevin Stefanski being a first-year head coach? Or is it on the whole entire team as a whole?
It might have been the play calling and Baker Mayfield, because whatever play calling that Baker got from Stefanski, he fouled.
Right.
So I would say both.
Gotcha. Okay, that makes sense. And then, obviously, moving on to Sunday night, tonight, against the Giants, you got the revenge game with Colt McCoy and Freddie Kitchens.
And Jabril Peppers, don't forget about that.
Yeah, I forgot. He's definitely the one that's been forgotten. But with this game going on, 30 degrees, I think, in New York. It's going to be cold. I was telling Austin that if I'm a Browns fan, I'm more concerned with Colt McCoy starting than Daniel Jones. Colt McCoy and the Giants beat the Seattle Seahawks.
Yeah.
And Daniel Jones, he once early on in the year had a lot of thoughts that he was going to be a good quarterback, the next whoever, but he was going to be the next something.
He just can't stay healthy. That's pretty much it with Daniel Jones.
Right.
And with him having 2 injuries, if he would have started and he has those 2 injuries, that will hobble their team. And the defense will be all over his butt.
Especially with, like, Myles Garrett, too. I mean, Myles Garrett's been the type of player that always ends up, like, if he smells blood, he's going to attack. Like,
he's like a shark.
Exactly. So, going into this game with the Browns-Giants matchup, and to even go a step further, if they win, they have a 95% chance of making the playoffs. Not confirmed yet, but obviously their chances go up. If they lose, I want to say it goes down to like 40%. So that's a huge swinging game.
Because you have Miami, Indianapolis, and Baltimore on your butts. Mm-hmm. And if those 3 win their games, they're only, I would say, a half game out. But if we end up being tied at the end of the season with Indianapolis, we do have that tiebreaker because we won their game.
Exactly.
So
I mean, going to the Sunday night game, and you saw the rush, like pretty much the rushing attack kind of just was forgotten that game. It was pretty much Baker Mayfield running the show with 350 yards passing against the Ravens. What do the Browns have to do tonight? Austin said time of possession, which obviously with a run attack, that's kind of a big key, but what do you think the Browns have to do tonight in order to actually come out successful over the Giants?
Well, they should go back to their game plan that they had for the last 6 weeks, where you get Baker Mayfield moving, like have the pocket move with him, and he's a lot better when he rolls out.
Yep, rolls right or whatever.
Rolls right or rolls left, and he's more composed and more dominant on that part, and then you should have a better game. His pass attempts needs to be lower too, because he does when his pass attempts are 30 or above, then that's when he makes mistakes and all that other stuff.
Right.
Even though he only made one mistake, well, 2 mistakes on the Monday night game, and then no mistakes the weeks before that. It's just that most of those games, his pass attempts were below, I want to say 30.
Right.
His yardage were low, but they won the game.
Exactly, and that's on the fact that you have your rush attack end up kind of going through then too, because you have more plays that are running, and then obviously you're not passing the ball if you're running the ball.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, Baker had 40-some, I think, pass attempts that Monday night game. And I think the thing is, too, which is good news, is that you're finally seeing what a lot of people criticize Baker Mayfield for in the past actually change, and he's become more successful. He's been not quite that franchise quarterback for you, but it's been years.
And a lot of the times you see him under center.
Yep.
Instead of being in the shotgun.
Exactly.
Because you know how, notice last year he was in the shotgun more times. He's a lot better when he's under center, because he actually is able to do the play fakes, do more rollouts, and pass the ball efficiently.
Right.
And see the whole field.
Like you were saying, a lot of play action opportunities and whatnot, because, I mean, if you hit bad running backs, the play action isn't going to work as well. But if you have the duo of running backs you have with the Browns, you're going to have more people that are going to bite on the fact that if you run up the middle.
Opens up the pass.
Exactly.
As a lot of experts you hear on TV say, is that the running game, if you have like you said, if you have an efficient running game, it opens up the pass. And that's their strength, and that's pretty much their balance of this whole entire season.
Right, exactly. And I mean, that's definitely something that last year was kind of started, but it was never the right way. Like the game plan for the Browns is very similar to the Tennessee Titans, when you have the rush first and then, like you said, develops the pass. Ryan Tannehill this year, after being kind of just a guy under center for the Titans and his career was over with, he ends up having more pass attempts, and he's having good games as a quarterback, and they're not having to rely on Derrick Henry every single game. And the Browns are doing that same approach.
And same with the Bills too.
Yeah, exactly.
Josh Allen. Last year he was a decent quarterback, but look at him now. He's propelling the Bills into the playoffs.
Exactly, absolutely. So when you end up talking about like the quarterbacks and whatnot, and this was something that I was discussing with my boss from the radio station, when you hear the word elite quarterbacks, who would you consider elite quarterbacks? Because honestly, I can only think of 2.
I like Aaron Rodgers,
Patrick Mahomes, and that's probably about it. Because you have
Tom Brady, who's pretty much everyone's calling him the GOAT,
right?
Because he's won all those Super Bowls.
Exactly. But I think outside of those 3, it's not. Those aren't your elite groupings.
It's not defined.
Like Josh Allen isn't an elite quarterback. He's a great quarterback now. Lamar Jackson, a great quarterback that just like. There's not too many, like even Russell Wilson, he's more of a great quarterback. He's not an elite quarterback at all.
With Lamar Jackson is that he reminds me of more of, I want to say Michael Vick.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, Vince Young.
Back when he was a somebody.
Yeah. Well, running quarterback.
Yeah.
They don't have the greatest arm, but they have. can't stop them when they're going full head of steam, as we saw during the Monday night game.
Yep, exactly.
And that's our problem against the Ravens the last 3 years.
And the thing is that I feel like a lot of people, like, obviously Austin mentioned it too, a lot of people were considering that game, well, same old Browns. And it's the same thing if you're a Browns fan that you hear all the time. I guarantee you've heard it all the time through your life.
Yeah.
And the thing is, though, is that it's not necessarily that's the case that it's the same old Browns. Because in week 1, you got blown out by the Ravens, and then Monday night, later on in the year, you lose by 5.
The thing is with the week 1 blowout is that it's Stefanski's first year, and he's trying to get everyone on the same page. So by the time after week 1 ended, they starting to get their strides after week 3, because they're starting to get comfortable with each other and trying to get everyone into the same play calling or whatever.
Right, and not only on top of that too, like with just everything being new, you also didn't have a preseason this year too. And usually that preseason is 4 games long.
That hurts tremendous. Because usually during the preseason you have it's 4 games, but you have your first game playing with the starters for like a series.
Right, and that's it.
And then the back. And as the preseason progresses, then your starters start to become playing more and more and more, and that's how they get comfortable with it.
Right, you're like eased into the season pretty much, and then week 4, it's the guys bagging groceries and maybe standing out somewhere once every 70 players.
I've always said I want to see, since we like every time we get a rookie quarterback every year, and we play him in the preseason, he does well in the preseason. I'd rather have our rookie quarterback that we drafted sit on the bench for a year and learn from the starter.
Yeah, whoever's starting at the time, and like that's something that like we were even mentioning too, because we were talking about Ohio State and Justin Fields, and we were talking about also the fact that Marcus Mariota against the Chargers, he ended up having an opportunity against similar to Teddy Bridgewater and with the Saints, and now he's playing for Carolina. So you have an opportunity. Would you rather sign Marcus Mariota if you're Jacksonville or draft Justin Fields? Why don't you do both? Why don't you have Marcus Mariota start and Justin Fields could learn underneath, and you have the same exact quarterback?
As long as the rookies are sitting on the bench and learning from the veteran quarterbacks for a year, then he can get an understanding of how the system is working.
Right, exactly.
With our case, every freaking year we always have the rookie quarterback start.
Yep.
And it seems like they get excited to start, but then once the game starts, they're like deer in headlights.
Exactly.
It's bad. I mean, look what happened to Kaiser.
Or even the one name that I was thinking of when you ended up mentioning that was the Johnny Manziel. Every fan it was very similar to Baker Mayfield, when all the fans were demanding pretty much the start of the rookie quarterback that they just drafted. Johnny got his opportunity, and Johnny is no longer even a football player. But that's the same thing that happened with Baker Mayfield, but that actually turned out for the better. You had everybody chanting in that Jets game 3 years ago. And again, that was his first game. Was everybody's paying attention to you? It's Thursday night football. Everybody's paying attention because nobody else is on.
The whole world is paying attention. Yeah,
exactly.
And he shined during that game.
And that's when I don't think that's necessarily when the Browns franchise started to turn around, but that's when the hope finally started to come around because you saw the potential. And then that year, I mean, that was also the same year that
he broke the
rookie record, and they were like 7 wins, I think. And then the next year, and then the next year, that was last year with Freddie Kitchens, and they had a decline, but that's also because of catching.
Well, that's because
of coaching. I said catching, but I meant coaching.
Well, that's because of freaking Freddie Kitchen. He had no idea what the hell he was doing. Yep. I mean, I was hoping for Greg Williams to be the head coach last year.
Right, exactly.
But they ended up going with Freddie Kitchens because he had a great rapport with Baker Mayfield.
John Dorsey and Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. Now he's on the sidelines with, I think, the
He actually isn't anymore. He was with the Jets, I believe, as the defensive coordinator, and they actually fired
Greg
him.
Williams, yeah.
They actually fired him. So
Well, I did like Greg Williams when he was coaching though.
I think the thing that was most appealing for Greg Williams is the fact that he was the coach that you wanted because he didn't have a filter. Yeah.
He was a no-nonsense coach.
Yep, and I mean, the one thing, and I say it all the time too because it's funny, but like, that was the year of Hard Knocks too, and Freddie Kitchens is yelling and saying, like, if you're playing defense, like, make sure your nutsack is in the A gap or the B gap, and it's like, that's something that, like, you don't hear that all the time, and that's why people started, like, that was the main reason people started gravitating towards him, because it's like, hey, he's coaching and being a forceful coach. Like, he wants to win, he wants to have people get better. He's not delivering it in the most politest way, but at the same time, you're not being friends with your players. You're coaching.
Yeah, you're trying to have them learn your system, and if you're not going to do that, then get the hell out.
Right, exactly. And that's the thing too, is that there's
that's
so
why
many...
I said he's a no nonsense coach. Mm-hmm. He would have been an awesome coach last year.
So how long ago, while we break this down and talk about the whole entire no-nonsense thing, I mean, the Browns traded for Odell Beckham Jr. Last year was his first year, right?
Yeah.
So that would have been the first year with Greg Williams as your head coach if they decided to pick him. Yeah. Because Odell obviously missed the time of Greg Williams interim coach. But the thing is, though, is that do you think... And honestly, we already pretty much know the answer, but do you think Greg Williams is going to put up with Odell Beckham Jr. with his antics, with his watch? Like that first year when he first came in, he's wearing a watch and wearing his special cleats and whatnot.
He would probably knock Odell Beckham down a notch, maybe a couple notches.
Right.
And that probably would humble his ass off. And probably tell him it's more about the team than
the individual. Yeah, absolutely. I get where you're coming from, and I think that's I'm assuming that with Freddie Kitchens being the head coach last year, I think that came down to the fact that they knew that Odell Beckham Jr. was on the radar. That's something they wanted to go after, and you don't want your superstar to end up having to follow the rules all that strictly. Because, I mean, he's been in the league long enough, and he's not going to oblige more than likely just because he's been around. He's a star in his eyes and this and that. And a lot of other people view him as a star, too, before he came to Cleveland.
Oh, big time. I mean, he had major roles in the Super Bowl and all that other stuff.
Exactly, and college football, too, as well. And speaking of which, too, we have the selection show that is going to find out the college football playoff rankings. On that note, though, before we take a quick break, Nick, what did you think of Ohio State's performance yesterday against Northwestern?
Well, I actually missed the first half of the game because I was working, so I didn't get off of work until probably 2:30.
Okay.
So I caught the second half, but they were when I saw them, it didn't look good at first.
Right.
But then they got on a roll.
And Trey Sermon, too, 331 rushing yards,
my
too.
God.
It's ridiculous how good of a game. And we broke it down this way, too, because I was curious.
You don't see that in the NFL anymore either.
Like, you had the 2020 season with Trey Sermon, 55 rushing attempts, 344 rushing yards, the whole entire year.
Yeah.
Then in one game, 29 rushing attempts, 331 rushing yards. That's like playing a video game, essentially.
Oh, definitely.
And
granted,
go on.
Granted, it's like I said, you don't see that too often.
Yeah, exactly. That's not something that you're seeing too often.
Be Ohio State.
So yeah, we have the college football selection day committee, Alabama and Clemson at 1 and 2.
I had a feeling that was going to happen.
Yeah, I think that was more than likely. That was cemented in stone. So you have 3 and 4. Ohio State, I'm assuming, is going to be at 3. Notre Dame, I don't think belongs in the college football rankings.
Notre Dame should be either 6 or 7.
And I do want to take a quick break, but I feel like as soon as we take a break, they're going to end up having Ohio State being at whatever ranked position, which is probably going to be 3 against Clemson. We're holding on. Ohio State's at 3.
That's what I figured.
So when we get back, obviously, we'll go through the college football selection day process, and then maybe briefly up until 12:45, we'll end up talking a little bit of basketball, a little bit of the Cavs, because, I mean, their first game is on the 23rd, which is Wednesday, I believe.
I think
So we'll end up diving into that a little bit more.
And don't forget.
Oh, yeah, you have another jersey, too. So we'll end up getting into that after this break. Don't go anywhere. Ohio State will be facing Clemson on New Year's Eve day. They're going to be playing in the college football playoff nonetheless, though. Don't go anywhere on the We Like Sports podcast live from First Stop Bar and Grill. Make sure you Manscaped, too. Manscaped, promo code SPORTS with a Z, SPORTZ. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the We Like Sports podcast with myself, Peyton, Vince, and Nick. Now Brian, live from First Stop Bar and Grill in Parma. Parker Pierce is running the bar. He's not acknowledging me. He's actually cooking, that's why. But anyways, though, the breakdown for the college football playoffs, and then we'll get into Nick's closet party. We have the January 1st matchup, 4 p.m., Alabama against Notre Dame. Don't like the fact Notre Dame came in. Obviously, we'll dive into a little bit more of the college football rankings come Wednesday, 7:30 to 9:30 on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, all that fun stuff. 1-1, January 1st, 8 p.m., Clemson, Ohio State, doing it once again. This game's going to be interesting. I'm excited for it.
It's going to be a rematch from last year.
Exactly, and that's something that I think Dabo Swinney's a little concerned about because he even stated, I don't think Ohio State belongs in the college football playoffs. They didn't play enough games, blah, blah, blah. Sounds like a head coach that's scared to me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be very intrigued to see that matchup. Obviously, I don't want it to be a blowout for either team. I want it to be a competitive game because those competitive games are so much better than the typical blowouts.
I want Ohio State to blow these guys out by a large amount of points. I want blood. I want victory. I want revenge.
I think that's what the coach is actually thinking of too.
I had a stroke when I watched it last year. I was sitting there nervous every single minute we were up, and we got down, up, down. I'm like, oh. And then the refs, I felt like were stealing the game from us.
Scoot over more. That's why I moved.
I don't want to catch the crow.
You're fine.
All right.
You look better now. You're kind of on screen. That's the goal.
That's the purpose of it. I feel.
Jesus.
Yes, my child.
No, go away. Anyways, so before we end up going to the next closet party, I do want to hit on the Cleveland Cavaliers because their first game is on the 23rd. Guys, initially, judging off of the preseason and everything, what are your initial thoughts about the Cavs preseason? I know a lot of people are thinking that the Cavs could actually hang around and be something this year just because everybody else kind of remained the same and the Cavs got better. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Well, to be honest with you, I haven't watched any of the Cavs. I only watched like one Cavs preseason game.
It's fine. It's preseason, so I get it.
I'm not going to lie. After the little fanboozle with LeBron again, I just kind of said, you know what? I'm done with basketball for a while. I'm sick of my heart being broken with basketball. So I just kind of stayed away from it and just been catching up on hockey and all the other stuff.
Oh, I'm excited for the hockey season.
The hockey season's going to be great this year. Me and you'll talk about this after the show. Oh, yeah.
So this is the We Like Hockey show.
What about you, Payton? What do you think about the predictions? Because you're more up to it because you're always in sports.
Yeah.
So what can you tell us? Give us a little knowledge of what's going on with our Cavs.
So, I mean, the thing is that with the Cavaliers, I think a lot of people are going to end up sleeping on them because this isn't the typical years in the past when they're just kind of existing. Yeah. That's literally the last couple of years whenever LeBron isn't there with Cleveland. I think they have a good enough squad that, they're hungry to play, and they could end up surprising people. I think they're going to end up being above 500, but I also, at the same time, don't think they're going to be in the playoffs, but they won't be out of reach of it. They're going to be fighting, and it's going to be fun to watch, so if you guys have the time to...
They're going to be a scrappy team.
Yeah, absolutely, and if you have the time to watch the Cavs... I'd take the time and watch it because last year I only watched 2 or 3 games. I didn't have any interest. This year I'm excited again just to see competitive basketball. I mean, you lost Tristan Thompson, obviously.
Plus you got the new rookies coming in.
Exactly.
Coming in too. And,
you have Isaac Okoro.
And I heard Love's going to be going somewhere else.
That's always been talked about over and over again with Kevin Love always talking trades and whatnot. So there's no for sure thing about that. But he could be on the move. Andre Drummond could be on the move. Who knows? Also, I know that I just saw this now too. Carson Wentz said that he's not interested in being a backup, but he's going to end up having to find another team to play with, I think, because Jalen Hurts is going to be more of the answer for the Eagles than Carson Wentz himself.
So here's a question for you. What team would suit Carson Wentz?
Honestly, I'd actually have to sit down and think this one through because Jacksonville wouldn't be a fit. The Jets wouldn't be a fit, and they're drafting Trevor Lawrence.
Even though Trevor Lawrence doesn't want to go to the Jets?
Yeah. I feel like You could always demand a trade and could not want to go to somewhere, but he's still gonna. I feel like he's still gonna end up playing. But if the Jets don't have anybody,
I have a feeling by next draft, it's gonna be like another Eli Manning.
Like traded. Wasn't he drafted by the Chargers and then they traded him?
He was drafted by the Chargers, but then he didn't want to play for the Chargers, so he got traded to the Giants. Undrafted.
And then that was traded for Drew Brees too, right? That he was in that trade too, I believe.
I think so, yeah.
So honestly, I feel like if he doesn't want to play with the Jets and he actually follows through with that, I feel like Carson Wentz would be a good option with the Jets. It's not too far away from Philadelphia. You're playing in similar weather.
No.
And obviously, I think he's better than Sam Darnold, obviously. But they're right now just kind of similar, too, at the same time. Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz are just they were super high expectations early on, and they just fizzled out. They're not anywhere in existence anymore. Yeah. But I know we're getting close to the end of the show. Yeah, obviously, every week, guys, whenever we're here at First Stop, Nick always scraps through his closet, finds out the nicest jersey that he could bring, and he'll tell you a little bit about it. So this is now presenting Nick's Closet Party. And it's funny that you bring it up. Before you even open it up, that looks like our old pullover for high school baseball with like the black and red. So I just had a flashback.
Ooh, it's a nice one too. It's a nice one.
It's one of the blackout ones.
Okay. J.K. Dobbins. So, let me ask you this. Obviously, all the time you end up bringing on jerseys, and I always end up asking some dumbass question. So, with Ohio State's jerseys, I mean, there's plenty of different jerseys. You have the blackout jerseys, and those are always against, like, Penn State. Those are personally my favorites. Yeah. But what makes the blackout jersey so attractive for an Ohio State fan? Like, what's the difference compared to the scarlet and gray?
It's something different. I mean, you don't see as often college teams wear black.
Right.
As much. Like, I think the only team that would come to mind is Iowa. Mm-hmm. That's their home jersey, or the home jersey is black.
Yep, the black and yellow.
Yeah. But I mean, it's something different. I mean, I always wanted one of these.
Awesome. How long ago did you get it?
About a couple years.
A couple of years ago, back when J.K. Dobbins was still a young lad and not in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then going a step further with the college football jerseys, because college football, there's so many exotic, interesting jerseys. Outside of Ohio State's, what is your favorite college football jersey out there? Because me personally, I really enjoyed the Marcus Mariota era, like Oregon Ducks, like the green, the black, the yellow, like all that. Like that was always attractive to me for the Oregon Ducks with that time span.
It's interesting because Oregon always changed their jerseys.
Yeah, like every year.
Every year. Same with Boise State. Boise State always has something different too, and it's always with different helmets too. I mean, they have the one helmet where they have the Bronco on the right side and have the number on the left side. That's the same way with, I wouldn't say the same way with Oregon or so, but Oregon has their feather helmets too,
with the wings going on the side and whatnot. Yeah. So, what is Oregon up there then with you with like Oregon and Boise State then with like the fancy jerseys outside of Ohio State that you like?
Not really.
Fair enough.
There's only certain. I would say, God bless you.
Thank you.
Are we allowed to say that, or do we just shoo them away now?
You know,
my theory didn't say COVID or anything.
My theory is that, you know, we never got sick when we were kids. We ate dirt. We sat down and licked doorknobs. We never were diseased and dead.
You wiped your ass with your hand?
I wash my hands after I wipe my ass. I don't know about you.
I don't wipe my ass with my hand. I'm a snowflake.
Well, for college.
You know what? Okay, so during the next week's, in the ring, I'm automatically granting you 3 points ahead of anyone you verse for that one. Okay.
But for college football, I only follow maybe 3 teams at most.
Okay.
Ohio State's number 1.
Oh, they're godly.
Yeah. And I've gone fond of the Akron Zip, even though they haven't been really relevant since their bowl games in like the mid 2000s.
Yep.
But I've gone fond of the Akron Zips.
Okay, awesome. And it's still local, too, which is pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
it's closer than Ohio State.
While we're in the talk of college real quick, I have a question. Do you follow college hockey as well?
Not as much.
Check them out. When you get a chance, check it out. They're actually pretty talented. It's not as good as it's better than a peewee, but it's a lot more fun and interesting to watch than like a minor league team. And they got some really good like games going on right now on ESPN. Some throwback college games. Check them out when you get a chance.
I think I've seen a couple.
Notre Dame might do some damage this year. I got to say that they're looking pretty sharp with their team. I've recruited in their little back zone, seeing what they had.
Yeah.
You know.
So on that note, guys, we got out of the closet. We talked about the Ohio State jersey. The Browns play tonight at 8 o'clock.
Which we're gonna dominate.
Allegedly. But we're done here from First Stop. We will see you 7:30 to 9:30. We Like Sports Podcast. Nick, thanks for coming on and joining us.
No problem.
Per usual. I mean, you're putting in so much work. I'm going to give you a giant compliment, too, because this We Like Sports Podcast group on Facebook, like, you're inviting, like, so many people recently, and, like, I'm like, this is awesome because, like, he comes on, enjoys it, and he's like, you know what, these guys are my friends. We're going to help build them up, too. And that is awesome that you do it, so I just want to thank you live on air, so I appreciate it.
What are you gonna do after the show?
Probably have another couple beers and then go home and then maybe hang out with a buddy of mine for the Browns game. And
then Manscaped, right?
Yeah, don't forget to shave your nuts too.
Promo code Sports with the Z, SPORTZ. Guys, we'll see you Wednesday, 7:30 to 9:30. Browns, Giants tonight, 8 o'clock. Let's see what happens. The Browns are playoff bound, and we're not talking about a mock draft in Cleveland for the first time in how long? Or a quarterback.
Yes.
So be excited, enjoy it. We'll see you guys here next Sunday. Possibly. Stay tuned. Just don't go anywhere. More than likely going to be here next Sunday as well. That's 11 to 12:45. Have a nice Christmas if we don't see you Wednesday. We'll see you then.
Manscaped, shave your balls.